إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على نبينا المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. ثم أما بعد. My dearly beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, we always begin by glorifying and praising Almighty God. We seek His protection and forgiveness from our evil actions, and we always remind each other when we congregate that the verses of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands people of faith to have reverence, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He should be revered, the way He should be remembered constantly, and to not leave this life, to not die unless you are submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before I begin the topic of this afternoon, we have an important question we need to ask ourselves today. You are here today sitting down, right? That means you have faith in Allah. You believe. You know there is something after this life. Or else you would not be here. You would have rejected and said, I'm not coming. But you're here, you're listening to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the question we need to pose ourselves, how many years left do you have in your life in this world? It's a shocking question. You might not ask it on a daily basis, but there is a need to ask it. And there's a reason why we are introducing the topic with this question. How many years? 10? 15? 30? 50? Maybe you're young, maybe you're starting high school or middle school, and you don't even think how long you have left. In Ramadan, we had a youth pass away. May Allah have mercy on him. In Ramadan, my father-in-law, may Allah have mercy on him, passed away at the age of 52. How many years left do you and I have? And the reason why we need to ask ourselves this question, it leads us to the next question, is why are you here today? And this is such a fundamental question that many people struggle with. Why were you created? Why do you have these 50, 60, 70 years of life? What was the point for Allah to create us? And many of us today, you know the answer. If I ask you, what's the purpose of life? A lot of the responses from people who are sitting here today will say, the purpose is that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is correct. But it's deeper than that. It's much more than that. And the answer is in the Quran. You might skim past it very often. But let's look. Many people struggle with this question. Why were we created? Do you really think that you were created to wake up, go to work every day, pay your bills, go to sleep, have children, and then die, and then nothing is left? There's a reason. Every single one individual has a purpose in this dunya. Let's look at the beginning of creation where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He creates Adam alayhi salam, and He tells the other creations of the angels and the jinn, prostrate to Adam. He is a magnificent creation. I've created this creation from mud and clay. So prostrate in turn, so you can show to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you will follow the commandment. And we know the angels prostrate and etc. And the shaitan, Iblis, this denies to prostrate because of arrogance. Then the second statement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after this event is Allah decides to expel the angels. And it's important, it's in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares this story for us to know why we are here on this earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, with قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I will make this creation successors, inhabitants, but they are the safe keepers of earth and this dunya. Not only is the point of view here is to worship Allah, but the point for you is to leave a legacy that the next generation benefits from. So the third question you ask yourself, ماذا قدمت لدين الله? What did you bring to this religion? What did you do for Allah's sake? How did you improve your relationships, your society, your family life, your work environment? What are you doing now? You think you just come to Jum'ah and then you listen and you pray and that's it? Allah made us, and now look, the angels, they say, well, we know you know Allah, and we know that this creation, if you leave them in the earth, they're going to be corrupt. They're going to lie and cheat and steal and backbite and hurt each other and cause so much calamity and destruction, even destruction to the environment. وَيُفْسِقُ الدِّمَاء, and they will slaughter each other and split each other's blood, which you see constantly around the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the solution to prevent us from falling into that characteristic. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُ, I know you don't what you don't know. فَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ, so He taught Adam. He gave Adam alayhi salam education, knowledge. He knew everything. How do you fish? How do you build a boat? How do you grow agriculture? Everything that was taught to Adam is what we are using today. That is the whole point, that you come, Allah gave you this knowledge, that you use this knowledge for good. You establish the Khalifa of this earth, that you are the successors, that you are caretakers of this earth. So let's go to the topic, inshallah. That's not even the topic of today. That's just the introduction to make you and I understand what I need to do something more. I need to help my community. I need to establish, and the topic today is establishing peace. That is one of the commandments from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Authentic hadith. If you open the book of Muslim, the hadith book, authentic. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, a great companion, he narrates to us beautiful, eloquent words of Rasulullah alayhi wasallam. And I want you to understand that Rasulullah alayhi wasallam made the structure of the words in a way that is directly impacting your goal in life. So if I say, okay, now you know why you're here in this earth. You're to worship God, establish God's oneness. La ilaha illallah, you establish the oneness of God, and you make the environment secure enough for people to benefit in the next generation. But your goal, nothing comes free, right? You have to get something in return. What do you get in return for following the commandments of God? You get Jannah. The heaven, the abode, eternal life in the presence of angels and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prophets in Jannah, in paradise. So the Prophet ﷺ knows that you and I, we want to go to Jannah. So he starts off by saying, لا تدخلون الجنة حتى تؤمنوا. He says, you will not enter heaven unless you believe. You have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So right away, it shocks you. You say, okay, wait. I want to go to Jannah. I can't go to Jannah unless I have faith. But there's another condition. وَلَا تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَحَابُوا. You cannot have faith without loving each other. Do you hear the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You think you have faith? Do you love each other? Human, mankind. You and I, we have the same thing inside ourselves. A heart, lungs, stomach, blood, we're the same. But the shaitan comes to us and makes us think we're better than each other. Our colors are different. Our languages are better. Our cultures are better. Our education is better. My wife is better than you. All these things come into play in your mind, and you and I, that love association that we're supposed to build, begins to dissipate and disappear. So let's stop right here, and I'm going to give you a beautiful point. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling you, here's your goal. You want to go to Jannah. This is the goal. Here's the first step. You have to have faith. Okay? In order to have faith, you need to love each other. In order to go to Jannah, if you read Surah Al-Kahf today before coming, you would have crossed the verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spells out a direct formula for you and us to know how to go into Jannah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ كَانَتْ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْفِرْدَوْسِ نُزُلًا. You have to have two things. You have to have faith, and you have to have good deeds. Right? And what you do with those good deeds, Allah will give you the highest al-firdaus, the highest level of Jannah, just because you had strong faith and you followed up with your actions. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he knows this. He knows that you need to have faith, but now he's giving you the action to do, to build your love, and eventually build your faith, which will eventually lead you into Jannah. So what does he say? أَلَا أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ إِذَا فَعَلْتُمُوهُ تَحَبَّبْتُمْ أَفْشُوا السَّلَامِ بَيْنَكُمْ. Should I not tell you, if you do something, you do this action, it will lead you to love one another. And remember, what did he say? If you love each other, that means you will have faith. And if you have faith, you go to Jannah. And he's giving you the action to do, which is to spread peace amongst each other. He didn't say, Afshu salam bayna al-Muslimin. He didn't say, spread peace amongst Muslims. He didn't say, spread peace amongst your own culture. He said, spread peace amongst everyone. Baynakum, everyone collectively. So let's focus on this, inshallah. After the jilsa, the break, we will talk about peace in Islam, establishing peace in Islam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم. Do you know that everything around you is peace in Islam? Everything you do. You enter the masajid, you say Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. You exit the prayer. What do you say to exit the prayer? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace unto you and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you enter Jannah, remember that's the goal. Your goal is, I want to go into Jannah. What's the greetings? How do they introduce you into Jannah? تَحِيَّتُهُمْ يَوْمَ يَلْقَوْنَهُ سَلَامٌ. The greeting, the welcoming that they have when they reach the gates of Jannah is peace. How can you expect to have peace in the Akhirah when you are not thinking of establishing peace here? Remember, that's why I started. How many years left do you have in order to do these actions, in order to get into Jannah? It's such an important question you have to discover in your own way to help you navigate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He call us to? وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ. Do you know this is a verse in the Quran? That Allah is calling, inviting to the abode of peace. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not inviting people to wars, destruction, corruption, evil. No. This is not part of what you find in the Quran. So let's look at the words of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. If it's still not clear, if it's still not moved, before I get there, there's one more verse I want to share with you. And it's a very beautiful verse about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells, because right now you might be sitting here and you say, well, you know what, there's a lot of people who are instigating this type of association where people fall into the violence. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you who? وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ, the obedient slaves to the merciful. Look at the words Allah uses. He doesn't say وَعِبَادُ اللَّهِ. He says وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ, the people who obey the merciful God. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. They are the ones that when they walk upon this earth, they tread this earth, they go to work, they go to their home, they travel abroad, wherever they are, they have this characteristic of hawna. They are modest, easy, not tough, simple, kind, caring. All of these definitions mean hawna. وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ, and when the ignorant decides to instigate, decides to discuss, decides to ignite, قَالُوا سَلَامًا, they say peace. They say peace. There's no but they also do this. No, there's no but this. There's no and they do this. There's no however. قَالُوا سَلَامًا, we want peace. Are you from that? Is that a characteristic that we are valuing? Is it valued in our morals today? This characteristic of spreading peace. Let's go to the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man comes up to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is both in Bukhari and Muslim. This hadith. Both they read this same hadith. And the man asks Rasulullah alayhi wasallam, Ayyul Islam khayr. What? It's not what's the best action in Islam. The question he's posing is, what's unique to Islam that is so good? What is so unique to Islam that we should do? And the Prophet ﷺ, I want you to think. Many of you might not know this hadith. So what do you think is answered? Is it to pray? Is it to pray the night prayer? Is it to go make Hajj? Think, what do you think his statement is? The first thing he says, تُطْعِمُ الطَّعَامِ, feed the needy. Have those in need. وَقْرَأُ السَّلَامِ, and spread and say peace. مَنْ عَرَّفْ, who you know. وَمَنْ لَمْ تَعْرَفْ, and people who you do not know. We'll get to the actions after, inshallah. But think of those words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because of time, I'm going to give you the three things we want, inshallah, to focus on. Remember, in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, those of people who have faith and they do the righteous deeds, they get to go to Jannah. So today you're listening and you say, well, I need to establish peace. How can I do that? You're going to do that right now, inshallah. Inshallah, all of you and myself, we're going to start today. And you're going to do it right after we finish the prayer. I want every single one of you to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi wasallam, that the people you know and the people you don't know, you establish the peace and blessings. Isn't it a shame when asaf that you come here weekly, daily, monthly, whatever, and we don't know each other? That you sit beside someone, that the sunnah of Rasulullah is to congregate and you sit beside a brother or a sister, and you might not know their name? Isn't that a shame that we're not establishing the community? Do you know when Rasulullah went to Medina, he did two beautiful things? He made the muhajirin, the people from Mecca, and the people who were living in Medina, he made them blood brothers. Meaning that they share everything, that if I own something, you own it as well. And then he also established something that many people don't know, which is the constitution of Medina. Safeguarding, protecting liberties and rights of Muslim and non-Muslim or people of the book to live and practice their own religion in Medina. And even if someone was to attack Medina and only attack the Jews of Medina, the Muslims were commanded to help defend the Jews of Medina. Liberty and freedom of religion was established in Medina when the Prophet came, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What a beautiful human, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We need to follow this example. So when you finish the salat, give the salam to people around you, introduce yourself, and say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You say Assalamu alaikum, you get 10 hasanat. You say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you get 20 hasanat. You say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, you get 30 hasanat. Imagine how many people you can do that to. So we start today right here. After that, you know where else you want to spread peace? In your home. How many homes that are not full of peace? That are struggling, that are fighting, that are abusive. We have Muslim police officers, they will tell you, majority of the calls they make are for domestic violence, abuse. We need to establish peace in our own lives, in our houses, to ensure that everyone understands this is from Islam. The third thing, the last one, that inshallah we can establish, very easy, these are practical things in here. I'm not telling you, go do this outside and international. I'm telling you right here, let's focus on here. The third thing, and this is something important, from the Sunnah, from the Quran, from Allah's Word. How many of us know the names of our neighbors? How many of us even know who lives around us? How can someone understand that Islam is a peaceful religion when we are not outreaching? We're not reaching out to those close to us to affirm that Islam is peace and all we want is to live in harmony together. That I want you to practice whatever you want in your own way. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La ikraha fi din. There's no, you can't force anyone to practice the religion. You can't. So you do what you want. You have questions, I will answer it, I'm welcoming. Have you ever brought your neighbor something to eat? Have you ever helped them in need? Have you ever just knocked on the door and said, do you need anything? Have you ever asked someone, do you need anything? Maybe someone needs a ride, maybe they're sick, maybe they need help with children, etc. Even just maybe have a pet, you can look after their pet. But we need to reach out. The final, and I conclude with the words of Rasulullah. Picture the Hajj with Rasulullah. Picture, there were over 100,000 people standing with him making the Hajj. And you know that there are many different statements that came out of the Hajj. The only Hajj the Prophet ﷺ performed, the Hajj of pilgrimage, of farewell. He's giving the glad tidings and saying, this is it. You know the verse in the Quran, it came down, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Your religion is complete, today it's done. It's perfect. So this is my farewell. So he gives a beautiful statement. He says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ala ukhbirukum bil mu'min. Should I look faith again? Should I not tell you who is a believer? Who has faith? Who has iman? المؤمن من أمنه الناس بأموالهم وأنفسهم. The believer is the one that people, not Muslim, not Arab, not Pakistan, no. The Muslim is the one that in general people feel trusted in terms of their money and their personal safety and security. So inshallah, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the people of salam, of peace. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the people who read the Quran on a daily basis. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from the people who follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت، وعافنا فيمن عافيت، وتولنا فيمن توليت، وبارك لنا فيما اعطيت. نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب اليك، نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب اليك. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وصل اللهم وسلم على نبينا المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة.